Life isn't always, or really never, about being the best or winning the gold medal, having the highest salary, the best job position, but it's truly about finding something that you love to do and being on that journey and finding something that you're so passionate about.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. I've had a recent why not now moment that I want to share with you. For the past several years after exiting my company, I've had people reach out and ask for help building their personal brands online. Given my background in guiding people like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and many entrepreneurs, athletes, and executives in the past with building their platforms, it's a common thing for people to reach out and ask for help. So I've had this idea swirling around in my mind for several months now, and I casually started to map out the structure of a program I could offer, kind of a mastermind, masterclass of sorts. But I found myself hesitating to pull the trigger. And the main reason was that I wanted this to be more than just helping people build their platforms. I knew it had to be more. I knew in my mind and in my heart what it needed to be, but I was having a hard time articulating my vision. And maybe I was just a little scared. So 2 things happened. First, I interviewed Marie Forleo on this podcast, and she said that one of her favorite mottos is start before you're ready. That really clicked with me. And secondly, I reached out to my mentor and I intentionally sat down with her, Susie Batiste, and discussed my concept with her. I knew that if I started discussing this idea with her, I would hold myself accountable to follow through. And it's odd how my brain works that way, but I knew to not bring this up until I was really ready to greenlight the idea. So that made me actually press go. And when I did press the go button, it was kind of crazy how easy it was for me to articulate my vision with clarity. Don't you just love how that works? So I've launched the Renegade Brand Bootcamp. Check it out at renegadebrandbootcamp.com. It's an intensive program for driven people who are serious about going from idea to action and investing in building their personal brand and platform online. I know firsthand that by growing your presence and owning your voice, you can gain the freedom to design your own days so you can own your life. This program isn't for everyone, and in fact, the first one is for women only. The next one will be opened up to both men and women. I strongly believe that where passion, purpose, and skill collide, bliss resides. And this program is for people who are living in that intersection or want to be living in that intersection. If learning everything you need to know to execute on your ideas, build your platform, grow your presence online, and own your voice resonates with you, then check out renegadebrandbootcamp.com. And if there's one takeaway I've had from going through this process, it is start before you're ready. Imagine working towards something for the first couple of decades of your life, and that's all you know. Then At age 22, it all ends. That path is gone, and you have to reinvent a new path. That's what happened to today's guest, Nastia Liukin. She was born a gymnast and went on to win an Olympic gold medal in 2008. Then 4 years later, she decided to make a run for the 2012 Olympics. After a critical fall off of the uneven bars, she had a why not now moment that gives me chills. Nastia reinvented the vision she had for herself, and then she took action. This woman has grit. She's the entrepreneur of a new mentoring app for female athletes called Be Grander, and she's become quite the online influencer and blogger with a following of more than 2 million people. During this episode, Nastia shares her story, and we talk about everything from navigating a 180-degree turn in your career to the topic of quitting, body shaming, and mentoring. She tells us something that her mom always used to say to her when she wanted to quit, and it's a saying that I've personally used recently, and it's helped me stick with things when I wanted to throw in the towel. We tackle the most taboo topics on the Why Not Now show. Oftentimes, you're hearing guests share things they've never shared before. In the spirit of things we don't typically talk about, you should know that the Why Not Now show is supported by Poopery. Yep, the original before you go toilet spray. It's magic. My friends at Poopery have literally taken the smell out of you know what. This pure blend of essential oils stops bathroom odor before it begins. Visit poopery.com, and Why Not Now listeners get 20% off with code Why Not Now. That's all one word. Also, you can now get Poopery at Target. Nastia, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you on the show, and let's dive right in as we do. In the spirit of Why Not Now, can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself, why not now?
I think it was probably in 2012, so 4 years after I won my gold medal at the Olympics, and I decided to try to make my second Olympic team. And, a lot of people had different opinions. And, I think a lot of people were also kind of like, why wouldn't you just want to go out on top? You achieved everything you wanted to in the sport. You won an Olympic all-around gold medal. That's basically the highest accomplishment and achievement that, you can accomplish in your sport. And for me, it was because I wanted to continue because I truly just love the sport. I, to this day, have so much passion, and it has really become a huge part of who I am. And it was kind of growing up, and it kind of will continue to be, I think, for the rest of my life. That being said, I knew that I was going to be at the next Olympics, no matter what, whether I was on that Olympic team in 2012 or I was working or watching or, in some capacity, I kind of knew that I would be there. And so for me, it was a no-brainer to try to make my second Olympic team. And I had a lot of doubters. I had, some supporters, but mostly doubters. And again, it was really about knowing that I wanted to be in London, whether I was on the floor, in the stands, whatever I was doing, without any regrets. And so I decided to try to make my second Olympic team, and I knew it wouldn't be easy. I had taken a few years off after the Olympics to pursue, different opportunities that I had coming my way. And that kind of meant that I had to stop doing all of that and start training 7 hours a day, 6 days a week again. And my dad, who, was my coach my entire career, he obviously supported me and said, I'm on this journey with you, but just know it's going to be even more difficult this time around than it was before. But I was kind of willing to take not only the risk, but know that it was going to be, really difficult. And so on my best event, I made it all the way to trials. On my best event, the uneven bars, I came crashing face first on the mat off of a release move. And in that moment, I remember laying there face first thinking, what am I doing down here? And then immediately being so embarrassed, so mortified. I knew that going into that competition, I was the reigning Olympic all-around gold medalist. And I had so many expectations and so much pressure on on myself, and I had just disappointed so many people. And so in that moment, there were so many feelings. Obviously, I was disappointed. I was upset. I was mortified, embarrassed. I knew I'd let all these people down. But then I remembered, immediately that my parents always taught me ever since I was a little girl that no matter what you do, you always have to finish what you started. So I chalked back up. I finished my routine knowing that, my dreams of making that second Olympic team were completely over. And I landed on my feet. And for the very first time in my entire life and career, I had a standing ovation for the worst routine of my entire career. So I think that to me kind of became that defining moment of my life and career, because when I won the Olympic gold medal, sure, people were clapping and cheering and, supporting me. But the moment that I had in San Jose in 2012, when I literally fell on my face, got back up and finished my routine and saw 20,000 people on their feet, really truly made me realize that life isn't always, or really never, about being the best or winning the gold medal, having the highest salary, the best job position, but it's truly about finding something that you love to do and being on that journey and finding something that you're so passionate about. And that was gymnastics for me. And in that moment, I knew that as scary as it was, I knew that my time as a competitive gymnast was over. And that was kind of my why not now moment, because it was something that defined me as a person for 22 years. And now it was over. And it was scary. It was exciting. It was, again, so many different feelings, but I knew that I was ready to move on with my life. And that meant, I picked up and from Dallas, Texas, I moved to New York. I started school at NYU and I began this kind of next chapter of my life, not knowing at all what that was going to look like. I had no idea what was ahead, but I knew that now was kind of the time to do that.
I have to share with you, as you were telling the story about being in San Jose, falling and getting back up and finishing, I just got complete goosebumps and like body chills, because it's just, I can't imagine what was going through your head. And talk about perseverance and just, no, I will finish this. I can only imagine. Was there even any, I'm sure it happened so quickly, in that type of situation in your sport, in some cases, do people just stop and they kind of walk off the mat? Or
yeah, I mean, I think also, so my dad was right there and everything happened so quickly that he was standing there, but like he literally didn't even have a chance to catch me because it happened so fast. Like my hands hit the bar to like re-grab the bar, and I just kind of like, I was a little too far, so I couldn't catch the bar. And then all of a sudden I was on the ground. And so, the dad instinct in him immediately kicked in, and he just wanted to make sure, I'm the only child, the only daughter. So for them, it was just always like safety first, happiness, and then gymnastics. And so immediately he just kind of wanted to make sure that I was okay. And I think, he almost just, I remember him immediately telling me, like, first of all, like, are you okay? And I wasn't injured. I think I was just shocked. And then he wanted to make sure that this was something I wanted to do. And I think I even remember him being like, you don't have to do this. Like, you can just walk away, you can be done. And then I was like, no, I can't, because I remember, that was kind of always the golden rule, was that you have to finish what you've started. And so I had 30 seconds from the time that I landed on the mat until I could restart my routine. If you don't start back up in 30 seconds, you're automatically kind of disqualified. You get a 0. And so again, like all of those thoughts and emotions and feelings, and knowing that like my career was basically coming to an end, like all of that was happening within 30 seconds. And so it was a lot. It was a lot to kind of take in, but I didn't really have a doubt in my mind that I wanted to finish that routine, because I wanted to finish my career kind of on my terms, I guess. And I didn't want to finish walking away, because that to me would have been a failure. What I did during that routine, yes, I had a fall. Yes, I didn't make the Olympic team. Maybe for some people, they consider that a failure. to me, that wasn't a failure. Had I fell and walked off the podium and not finished my routine, that would have been a failure. But instead, getting that standing ovation and just learning so much about life and the journey and everything, like I truly learned more about myself and life in that moment, than any other moment that I've had so far in my life.
Such an interesting kind of an analogy to think about that being a springboard into your next phase and to your future. The fact that you did get back up and finish, because then you have this standing ovation and you probably gained so many fans in that moment because people want to see you get back up and succeed and, end on a high note. So it's kind of an interesting, almost an irony that was probably a springboard into what you were about to do next, whatever it was, because people are fans.
It definitely was without even realizing it. Obviously, it was just, again, everything happened so quickly. I didn't really have time to think. But I think what also really happened in that moment, it was so relatable, I think, to so many people now looking back at it, all these years later. When I won the gold medal, that's something that I'll forever be proud of, but it's not something that I think about every day. It's not something that, is relatable to many people. But the moment that I had there, what I realized was that, you don't have to be an Olympic gymnast. You don't have to even be an athlete, but we're all going to have moments in our lives where we fall. And whether that's literally or figuratively, we're all going to have those moments. And we all have to figure out, how do we get back up? How do we finish what we've started? Whether that's a relationship, a job, you're in school, anything in your life, you're going to have moments where things are challenging and you have to figure out, okay, how do I get over this hump? And so I think to me, that moment kind of also made me realize that, before then it was, sure, you're defined basically by this gold medal. And I think the moment that I had there at trials just made it seem like, okay, you're not perfect. We're all going to have moments of disappointment, of, whether you think it's failure, however you define those moments, everybody has them.
Sure. No, yeah, that makes total sense. The relatability without even processing it, if you're in the stands or regardless, it's totally there. I think that's why I got goosebumps, right? It's like, wow, I can just imagine you getting back up. So it's like you had two why not now moments compact into a matter of minutes, because the why not now, get up and finish, but then, which you had 30 seconds to decide. I mean, we talk about why not now moments on this show of being, tell me about that day, that minute, that hour. Well, tell me about that 30-second window is what you just did. But then after, it sounds like it was a why not now, except that the future is going to be different and that you are now wrapping up this gymnastics career.
Yeah, and kind of going into that, I mean, I guess I wasn't really looking ahead too much, but at the same time, I kind of knew whether it was going to end at trials or after the London Olympics. And so, I had taken 7 years between when I graduated high school and finally going to college. And I guess part of me was ready, but also like nothing can really prepare you for that kind of transition in life. When you have done something for, 22 years of your life. I mean, both my parents were gymnasts. I grew up in the gym, and it really did define who I was as a person, like kind of whether I liked it or not. And so it was a very challenging transition then, trying to figure out who I was as a person without that in my life. Who was just Nastia, not Nastia Liukin, the Olympic gold medalist, not Nastia Liukin, the gymnast, just Nastia. And so, I had a really challenging few years just trying to figure out, who am I? What are my passions? What do I want to do? Now that I'm not training 7 hours a day, 6 days a week anymore. And it was all these different feelings of, the excitement of the possibilities, yet the fear of not knowing the future. So it was a lot. It was a lot to take in, I guess, that first year. But I think everybody goes through those transitional moments, whether it's graduating college and you're trying to figure out your career, or getting your first job, or, whatever it is in your life, we're all going to have those transitional phases and moments in our lives. And, regardless of what your past is or regardless what you're transitioning from, it doesn't make it any easier.
Yeah, and let's dive into that a little bit because I think it's highly relevant to so many of us and to listeners who have a why not now idea of completely changing gears in their career. Maybe they're starting their own company, maybe they're taking a side hustle to the next level. And this concept of kind of reinventing yourself. And I use this analogy a lot of we place our ladders against a certain wall and we start climbing that ladder. And then sometimes we realize I actually want to put my ladder against a different wall, so it's leaning it, like moving it completely and starting at that bottom rung again. So how did you literally kind of navigate the time period from when you were done in 2012 and figuring out what you wanted to do next? Like, what did that process look like? Did you write things down? Did you talk to people?
I mean, kind of all the above. I think by moving to New York and starting school at NYU, that was already the best thing that I could have done because it truly forced me into this new city. I didn't have any friends there. I really didn't know the city. I'd been there, multiple times for work or, appearances or TV or whatever. But I really was kind of like this little, I guess, fish in the big sea. And that, I think, to me was really the perfect transitional phase because it just allowed me to dive right in to school, to making new friends, to, different opportunities and experiences, and kind of allowing me to just live my life and enjoy it and, not constantly try to win or not constantly try to compete or be the best. And so I think that was great. And then also, yes, I've always been one to write things down, whether it's my goals, my dreams, a to-do list for that day, for that week, or even just writing in a journal. Like I love being able, I think I'm more of that kind of person than really talking out, my thoughts and opinions to other people. I feel like I've gotten better at that over the years, but I always growing up just like kept my emotions and thoughts to myself or, to my journal or paper or whatever. It was a combination of things. And then I think just being able to really just meet new people of different walks and different backgrounds, and whether it was different sports or industries or, whatever that was, I think that really kind of helped me because it made me kind of realize that, there's so many different things out there and life has so much to offer. And while gymnastics, and again, like I'm forever grateful for the sport, but it kind of made me live in this bubble for so many years. And I think that it was truly time to kind of step outside of that.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hi, everyone. If you are digging this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It just takes a moment and it means a ton to us. Also, after recording more than 100 episodes, I've created a bit of a cheat sheet on the top 5 things I've learned from renegades and how they get from idea to action, from dreaming to doing. I will email you the downloadable PDF when you subscribe to my newsletter. Just head to amyjomartin.com and click on Connect with Me. Given that you're completely changing your entire lifestyle and this was a huge shift in so many different ways, was there any worry about losing relevance or concern about trying to remain relevant? And I ask because I think oftentimes when we are midway up the ladder or maybe even at the top of the ladder and we decide to move and we're back down at the bottom again, that there's a concern that, oh my gosh, will I be relevant? Am I still going to be valuable, in this other area or be able to kind of leverage what I have built over here, even though I'm starting over here? Did that come to mind at all?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I think my answer is like yes and no. Yes, in the sense of I definitely always felt like I wanted to do something to add value to people or, currently the next generation. So I think it was kind of scary just trying to figure out what that might be. That being said, I never ever did gymnastics, I guess, for, the fame, the money, to make a career out of it. I truly loved it because it was just a passion of mine. It was something that I just loved doing. And so I never really thought, all these years later, like 10 years after the Olympics, that I, be living the life that I have today. And, I'm forever thankful for those opportunities and the sport that gave me the life that I have today. So yeah, I think it's like a combination. I think, sure, that's like human nature to kind of think that. But I think at the same time, my goals were so clear, as soon as I figured out what those goals were. It wasn't really that difficult, I guess, once I established what it is that I wanted to do. And I think, again, going to school and going to NYU, that was kind of that next challenge for me, because I was used to challenges. Being a competitive gymnast for so many years, it's every single day was kind of a challenge for me. And so going back to school was a challenge, and then graduating school and figuring out what my next step was a challenge. And, I was very fortunate that I got the opportunity to start commentating and working with NBC. And that was something that I really wanted to do for so long, but it was also a challenge because it was a new industry that I really had no idea about. I didn't know how to do it. And it was a lot of learning experiences and trial and error and really studying and trying to learn this new industry that I was thrown into, yet given the opportunity to be thrown into, I guess.
That makes so much sense, given that, so you have a certain work ethic, obviously. You're an Olympic gold medalist and had been competing from such a very young age that it's almost like all of those skills and that whole package was transferable, regardless of what you were doing next. You could take it to the next ladder, and you obviously believed in yourself. You had this confidence because you had done this before at such a elite competitive level. So that's a really great takeaway. So there are things that are transferable, even if you move your ladder, of course. And remembering that, for listeners, it's not like you're starting from all of that experience you had is going to help you. So let's just change gears a little bit, but kind of along that line and theme of confidence. When someone Googles your name, you've done a great job with your personal brand over the last, 10 plus years. And also recently, there's been some conversation about body shaming and what you've been through with being a public figure and people having their opinions, which unfortunately sometimes they can share online. And I think it was in People, they recently, and a lot of other mediums, they recently talked to you about how sometimes, regardless of kind of what spectrum you're at, you've been called too big, too fat for gaining weight after the Olympics, all the way to now she's too thin. And it's just like this spectrum of, gosh, what are you supposed to be, right? You can't win. And the answer is you just be yourself. But how have you dealt with that? Because it sounds like it was even very recently over the years. And this is relevant to everyone because social media especially is such a pillar in most of our lives that even though some people may not be as public as you are, they're still kind of dealing with this. So what have you learned throughout this process of being kind of ridiculed?
I definitely have a love-hate relationship with social media because it's obviously an amazing way to be able to connect with so many people and kind of have this platform. And, I'm very thankful that I do have the platform to be able to kind of share and hopefully motivate and inspire people that, are following me or that are part of my journey. But at the same time, it definitely gives people that an instant kind of way to shame you or to bully you or to just be negative and hateful and hurtful. And so, as much as I can say it doesn't affect me, I'd totally be lying, if I said that. And it affects me on a daily basis. At least once a day, I get something negative or hateful, whether that's publicly or through a message or an email or, whatever it is. And it's like, that's really hard because it's, part of me is kind of like, what did I do to deserve that? But at the same time, it's, me understanding that I put myself in this position to kind of live a public life or have this platform or be on social media. It's definitely not easy, and it's something that I work on every single day. And I think what's been helpful is just having the people in my little bubble, my parents, my family, my fiance, and my closest friends that are truly the ones that their opinions are the ones that matter to me at the end of the day. And, if they were to kind of tell me, look, like, I think you're unhealthy or you need help, something like that, then like, obviously I would take that to heart. That being said, everyone's always going to have an opinion. And so I think trying to block out those people on social or, the people that you really don't know is kind of the best way to go. Again, easier said than done. But I mean, you said it perfectly. At the end of the day, you're living your life for you, not the people on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, social media, wherever it is. And as long as you're happy, healthy, then, that's really all that matters. And I think as soon as you can kind of learn that and understand that you're really living your life for yourself, then, the easier it gets. But it never completely goes away or doesn't, completely get to a point where it never affects you, or at least for me, it doesn't. So,
well, I commend you in sharing your thoughts and speaking out and being willing to talk about this, because it's, a lot of celebrities or high profile individuals tend to just not talk about it. And that's their choice, of course, and kind of sweep it under the rug or ignore it. But I think it's helpful to other people with you sharing this. And it seems like, it's a theme in people that I interview on this podcast, and when they're facing the naysayers or the adversity, considering the source is one of the top answers that I hear from them and how they get through. Like you just said, you look at your close bubble and you say, the people that know me the best, that care about me the most, what do they think? And the rest is the rest. So I'm really interested and excited to talk a little bit about your app, Grander, and how you decided to start this, if you could explain it a little bit. And I have some other questions, but as a kind of, a little bit of an explanation, can you share what you're up to?
Yeah, sure. My fiance played hockey. And so, we both really connected and bonded, well, I guess over numerous things, but, specifically in terms of this, we really just connected and, kind of had a similar vision, I guess, growing up and through our, competitive careers, and then also outside of our careers as athletes, but just the importance of having a mentor in your life, and whether that, was in sports or for him on the ice or a coach or, and then, even outside of sports, whether it's business or relationships or just, a life mentor, being able to learn from someone that you look up to, that you admire, that you trust. And then I guess, for him, he has obviously been kind of seeing, me travel across the country and the world and be able to meet so many young girls, and whether it's a clinic or a camp or an autograph signing. And I just didn't have, I wish that I could be able to talk to and share and give advice to and inspire all these young girls like all over the world. But unfortunately, there's only one me and so many hours and minutes in the day and year. And so we really brainstormed a lot. And then we, kind of came up with the idea of, creating this app, creating this global community for this next generation of female athletes and connecting them to their mentors, to their idols, to experts within their industry. So, we're starting in gymnastics because we really wanted to focus on one vertical and make sure we really nail it down. And gymnastics was the obvious one to start in. And then we'll really move across the board and in different sports, but it doesn't stop at sports. I think it's so important for me now. I look up to so many female or even just male or whatever, but female entrepreneurs and businesswomen and business owners and, people that just inspire me. And I would love to be able to, connect with them and talk to them and hear their stories. And, I love listening to podcasts. And, one of my other favorites is How I Built This, and just listening to all these entrepreneurs and the struggles and the obstacles that they had to go through, that I think we really don't talk about enough. Because again, going back to social media, it's what I found is it's really all of us putting our best stuff out there, portraying the life that we want people to think that we live. And that's great and all, but at the same time, I just feel like the obstacles, for an athlete, for instance, the injuries, the times that you have a mental block, the times that you're afraid of a skill, or you don't know how to do something, or you don't know how to talk to your coach, those types of things aren't talked about enough. And so I think what we hope is, we've created this platform where these young girls can come in and they feel like it's a safe and community and environment for them to be able to ask these questions and to be able to talk to their peers, and to their idols and to, their mentors, and for us to really build this community where, yes, the mentors are sharing kind of what they did, but also, the community is so important. And it's been so cool to just see how many young girls are, creating friendships and helping each other. And that, at the end of the day, is really what it's all about, is to truly just try to inspire that next generation to not necessarily become the next Olympic gold medalist, because that's not what life is about, but to truly be confident within your own skin, find something that you're passionate about, find a community that supports you, and learn how to just be the best version of yourself as possible.
It's so cool. I just love the concept, and how, to me, it feels like you've taken the dynamic and platform of a Bumble or of some of these other highly and wildly successful tech platforms and apps, and are using it for something completely different. And that's awesome innovation within that vertical. So it's cool to see you connecting like-minded people, but also the mentor-mentee, which is so important. So what's one lesson that you find yourself having to learn again and again?
I think it would be something that my mom actually shared with me when I was a young girl, and that was to never quit or give up on a bad day. And for me, growing up, I had plenty of bad days in gymnastics and training and all of those. And, I remember coming home and telling her I wanted to quit, and she would say, that's totally fine. You can quit, but not today. You have to go back to the gym until you have a good day, and then you can quit. Then you can decide, if it is something else that you want to pursue, that's totally fine. They never forced or pressured me into gymnastics. It was always something I wanted to do until I had a bad day. And then, she would just always say that you can quit, but not today. And so I think that, that truly has stuck with me, even outside of sports, outside of gymnastics, because we're always, no matter what it is that we're doing, no matter what industry, no matter what kind of, job we're doing, or relationships, or, really anything in life, we're going to have bad days. And it's just so important to remind yourself that you can't quit on those bad days. So I think that's definitely something that I'm constantly reminding myself, because I go through that all the time now, even though I'm not training 7 hours a day. There are days where I'm frustrated, or I feel discouraged, or, starting a business isn't always easy, and trying to pursue my own personal brand on the side as well. And there are so many times where, I definitely do feel discouraged, and I do feel like giving up or quitting, or, maybe saying, maybe I need to do something else. But at the end of the day, I've realized that those moments typically happen when I feel like I'm having a bad day, or, I hit a little bit of a roadblock, or, bump in the road or something. And so, I remind myself what my mom always told me, and that's truly kind of what gets me through.
I love that advice. I just love it. I haven't really ever heard it put that way, but it makes so much sense. You can quit, but not today, not until you've had a good day. Because
Yeah,
who
and
wants to quit when they're having a good day? I mean, it makes total
exactly.
sense.
Yeah. And it's like, when you word it that way, you're just like, oh, well, yeah, duh. And so but I think it's really constantly reminding ourselves that, because it is easy to give up or quit on those bad days. And again, kind of going back to the core of really finding something and doing something that you're so passionate about, because when you do find that, and that might take time, it might not be the first thing that you do, but when you do finally find that, that passion project or the job that you love so much or the sport that you love so much, it's so important to not give up or quit on those bad days. But when you do have those good days, like, of course you don't want to quit, because it's something that you love to do. So again, going back to the core of truly finding something you're passionate about is so important.
That's awesome. I kind of apply that to when I go snowboarding. If the last run of the day, which
Yeah.
I plan to be the last run, isn't good, I will make sure I go back up, because
Yeah.
even if the
Well,
lifts are
on a-
like closing,
yeah.
yeah, I don't want to end on a bad run, or I think I'm afraid I won't want to come back as quickly, or I'll like lose my drive and passion for it or something. But that's great, great advice. So I have a few rapid fire questions for you if you're game.
Okay. Yep.
And the first is, what's your all-time favorite book?
Definitely The Secret. I read that about 6 months before the Beijing Olympics, where I won the gold medal. And I don't know, just visualizing, the law of attraction, all of that just became so important to me kind of throughout that journey and that process. And so I definitely make it an effort probably every few years to kind of pick it back up and read it again. Or, if I feel like I kind of need like a refresh, that's kind of been a book that's really helped me throughout my life.
It's so good to hear from such an elite athlete that you also spend time and work on the intuition, the energy, the power of positive thinking, because sometimes I think it can be dismissed, especially with people who you have to be highly analytical and literal when you're doing what you're doing and competing. That's such a big part, that mental side of things. So that's
For
really
sure.
good to hear.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially with, when you're competing at the Olympics or you're on top of, whatever it is that your industry is, I think it truly becomes the battle of, who's mentally the strongest, because physically, or with gymnastics, it's like on any given day, anyone could really win. The level of difficulty, that I would say the top 5 athletes in the world are doing is pretty comparable. Sure, plus or minus a tenth or, here and there. But at the end of the day, it's, the amount of pressure and nerves that kind of come into place on that day where it matters most is pretty huge. And so it's really about, who can make it happen, when it counts on that day.
That makes sense. It's probably why we're seeing so many professional sports teams and athletes adopt meditation. And
Yes.
even in the NBA did a deal with the Headspace app. And that's speaking volumes, I think, when we see those worlds colliding. So next question, what keeps you up at night?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like I always have like so many ideas, dreams, goals, and it's figuring out how can I do all of it, and trying to kind of prioritize and not overwhelm myself too much. And so I think it's really about the next day or the next project, or kind of how I'm going to get everything done.
And pirates or ninjas, who is tougher and why?
Ooh, well, this is obviously a little different. I just did American Ninja Warrior.
That's right.
So I'm just going to go with ninjas.
You have every right and license to choose based on that.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it. That's awesome. And also you've done Dancing with the Stars, correct?
I did. Yeah, I did. It was so fun. I mean, I loved everything about the show, and created, lifelong friendships, and learned how to kind of dance, I guess. And it was just definitely took me outside my comfort zone at the beginning. And I think that was kind of what was awesome about it, was being able to, do something that I was nervous about and that I had no idea how to do. And, obviously Olympians and gymnasts specifically, do well on the show. So there was a lot of expectations and pressure, but I definitely loved doing it.
That's awesome. And American Ninja Warrior is not easy either. I mean, that's awesome.
I'm sore for like a solid week after that.
Good for you. That's awesome. And final question, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I would probably just tell myself to live more in the moment and enjoy every single day. I feel like when I was younger, I always wanted to kind of speed up kind of every day and every year. Like I remember like being 12 and I wanted to be 13 and then, wanting to be 16 and then 21 and 25. It's just like I constantly wanted to speed things up. And now obviously the older that I get, I'm like, wait, no, can we go back in time? And so I think really just being more present and enjoying the moment.
That's an awesome piece of advice right there. Well, thank you so much for taking the time with us and sharing your story and all your tips and tricks and lessons. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed being able to be on your show.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?